Come with me to a magical place where being labeled the pork queen is a compliment, where being nice is just a way of life, and where all leaders of the free world must pass through. Welcome to Iowa. Whether you're a current Iowan, an Iowa expat, or an Iowan at heart, this show is for you. This is the Iowa Podcast. Real Iowans, real talk, no drama. From the Jethro's Barbecue Studio, I'm Justin Brady. DMPS, I know we have a lot of Iowa listeners, but this is a big issue that's going to affect everybody. So it's worth covering. I know we've been on it a lot, but it is absolutely going to affect a large population in Iowa and will likely have effects throughout the state. The Des Moines Public Schools has a ballot measure on November 4th that they're asking, and then they have to get a 60% vote to clear this thing, and it's going to be, I think, $265 million ballot measure in Polk and Warren County. Now, we've had Laura Powell on here doing some citizen journalism about the Ian Roberts issue. We had Superintendent Matt Smith on here who was talking about that issue and then also defending the ballot measure. We heard from a lot of you. A few different comments. One is, what's the case against the ballot measure? Like, is there a case against it? But also, hey, Superintendent Matt Smith said that they don't have an ideological stance on like trans or gender issues, and they can't promote anything. But it turns out they actually are. Now, I'm not saying the district is, but it sounds like there are still signs and iconography and images and stuff being promoted by, I'm not sure if it's teachers or admin, but I've heard from parents saying this. I've reached out to some administrators. I've heard nothing back. I think it was specifically one school. We have that in one of the notes. But that being said, we've got a lot of feedback about this. And one individual who has been talking a lot about it on his show is Ross Peterson, host of The Rush, who joins us today. Ross, welcome back.
Thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it.
You're hitting a triple today, I think, right? Is this your third time on the show?
I think it is. Yeah, we've talked about sports.
Stop coming in here.
We've talked about my life, and then listening to your conversations about this ballot measure. I reached out to you again to say, hey, if you're looking for somebody that can articulate a case against this ballot measure, I'd love to be able to do that. I've got an extensive history with Des Moines Public Schools. I'm a product of Des Moines Public Schools. I've been a 25-year supporter through East High School and the East High Golf Classic, which I'm a board member of. I was the financial chair of that charity for a long time. Got a chance to tour every Des Moines Public School building a few years ago with one of our mutual friends, Mayor Connery Bozen. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I've got...
Great mayor.
Yeah, great mayor. And I have a son that's a sophomore in DMPS right now. So I'm pretty well versed in this. I'm also, by the way, a realtor here in Central Iowa, so property values matter to me.
Interesting. That's a good layer to this.
I really am coming at this from a lot of different angles. And so I'm really excited to sit and talk to you about why I am a very definite no on November 4th.
Yeah, and we'll get into that. And it's good because you reached out and I'm like, well, I don't. But then we started getting a lot of feedback from parents, like saying, "Hey, what's the no angle? Like, why should I care? Why should I care for this and against this?" Yeah. And I feel like we had Matt in here. We're always trying to be as fair as humanly possible here. And we had Matt in here talking about why we should, but it's best for us to also talk about why we should not, or what's the case against. Before we get started, though, we're already kind of started. But as a reminder, barbecue is amazing because you live in Iowa, and if you don't like barbecue, get out. Go to Nebraska. But Jethro's Barbecue, of course, sponsors this show, where this is the Jethro's Barbecue Studio. And if you want a $30 gift card for barbecue, like that's kind of cool, go to iowapodcast.com, scroll to the top, click that banner. If you buy a $100 gift card, they'll just give you a $30 gift card. That's kind of cool. So go do that. And of course, the more gift cards you buy, the more they love us. So the ballot measure is, the vote is November 4th. It covers Polk and Warren, and it is $94 a year if you have a $100,000 home, and if you have a $500,000 home, it's $378 a year. It's a lot of money, and so I should also disclose very close members, multiple members of my family also taught in Des Moines Public Schools for a long time. So I, of course, love Des Moines Public Schools as well. I want those kids to do well. That being said, we need to shine a light on this. So you mentioned you have, I think, one kid that's not in DMPS, but then another that is. And so give us the overall lay of the land here. What's the big reason that you're concerned about it?
Accountability, right?
Yeah.
The number one reason is accountability. The district has gone in the wrong direction for a long time, Justin, with a lot of the things that you've touched on already. The iconography, the agenda that's been pushed. We've had several superintendents in a row that I would say played politics with the kids. They created a lot of political enemies in all the wrong places. And some of that has come back to haunt them now. I mean, that's when we talk about the financials of the school district. The voucher program is certainly something that has had an impact.
Mm-hmm.
The voucher program exists, in my mind, here in Des Moines because of the politics that were played within the school district by previous superintendents.
Sure. So you're saying the voucher thing's a reaction?
Yeah, which I'm okay with, honestly. I'm a supporter of the voucher program, and I think if Des Moines Public Schools could get their house in order, then they wouldn't have this exodus that they're experiencing on enrollment right now. It has much less to do with that voucher program and a lot more to do with the politics that have been inflicted. And that I've gone to meetings, I've gone to the bond referendum informational meetings, I've sat with members of Amos and talked to them. And when I explained to those folks, Justin, that I have a son that's a sophomore, I'm, again, a lifetime supporter of Des Moines Public Schools. I have a home in the Des Moines district. I bought my house specifically for the public school path that my kids would be able to take.
Wow.
And then started my son on that path. After 2020, realized as my daughter was racing into preschool, I didn't want the DMPS path. So my daughter is now in a charter school here in Des Moines, which I hope we get a chance to talk about too, because I don't want to use this as a chance to just promote that, but I do think it's a wonderful alternative for parents to know about. We do have this growing and thriving charter school system that's happening here in Central Iowa. That's a large part because of that voucher program. And I think it's certainly a better alternative for my daughter. She's in a more diverse classroom, which is something that DMPS really touts, that they are the most diverse school district. And my daughter is one of 3 white girls in her class right now. So she's having a more diverse educational experience, getting a better education. She's competing in STEM programs. She's going to be this will be her 3rd year on a competition app building team, and she's in 4th grade.
Wow.
She is currently one of the finalists to be able to go to Chicago for a math bowl.
Goodness.
So there's all sorts of amazing opportunities that are out there, but the DMPS issues and this bond referendum, to me, if there's one word, it is accountability. That this district has been, I would say, mishandled for quite some time. Part of this bond referendum is about initially the bond referendum was pitched as this is needed for infrastructure. We've got to do major improvements to a lot of buildings.
And that is a big common theme through it, is a lot of, almost every school, it looks like, if I'm reading this correctly, will get construction or rebuild stuff.
I don't think it's every school. There's quite a few. There's a
lot
lot of them.
It's not every. It's just there was a long list.
Yeah, there is a long list. And Justin, there are a lot of schools that are in need of some updates and repairs. We have a 1-cent sales tax that's supposed to go directly to that. It's supposed to go to infrastructure for DMPS. So I'm interested in this audit that Rob Sand is doing to see exactly where that money has been funneled, if it's been mismanaged, and to touch on the charter school that my daughter goes to. It's in a former DMPS building. The Franklin Middle School was deemed by the district a long time ago to no longer be worthy of occupancy. Just like they're saying with a lot of these buildings now, they're telling us, even with the passing of the bond referendum, there are about 5 buildings that are going to have to close. I see what a building that they gave up on is able to do. It's definitely a worthy building to still be educating kids in. That's where my daughter goes. So there's a lot of things. I think this goes so much bigger than the recent public embarrassment, national embarrassment that Des Moines Public Schools.
Global. It's global news now, which is crazy.
Right. Dude, I was in Ireland and people were asking me about it. I swear to God. We talked about it a couple of days in Ireland. When people found out we were from Des Moines, that was what they knew about it.
Really?
So
Caitlin Clark and Superintendent Controversy
funny?
in Des Moines.
Caitlin Clark was something that did get brought up as well.
See what I did there?
Good job.
I'm just going to get you going on Caitlin Clark for now 20
No,
minutes.
so it, I think it's way bigger than this current board. It's way bigger than some of the missteps that have happened over the last 20 years.
So I want to talk about those missteps because there is one thing you brought up, and I know there are others, but that are constant complaints. But one, of course, being the whole ideology.
Yeah.
And like I said with the interview with Superintendent Matt Smith, what your family decides to do is your business. I still have that stance, but what your family wants to do or what your administration at your school wants to do should not impact my family's rights or my family's ideas. And so the trans issue, the gender issue is one of those things. Whatever your opinion is on it, this is America, great. Your opinion, that's fine. But there should not be adults and educators pushing down a certain gender opinion or gender ideology on students.
Right.
And I was promised by Matt that is not in compliance if people are doing that. And we had photos that we showed on X that someone took at North High School. And of course it had trans flags everywhere next to the principal's office. And if you want to have that stuff, that's fine. But he said, if that is still the case today, that is not in compliance and that's not allowed. But it sounds like people are doing this. And we heard from parents. Have you seen this stuff too?
Buddy, the day after I listened to your interview with Matt Smith, I did a tour of Central Campus. And the very first table that you walked up to was I had my daughter with me. Mm-hmm. And the first thing, it was a sticker booth. And all of the stickers were rainbow stickers for each one of the individual specified studies at Central Campus. So
wow,
that was the very first table that you walked up to. And now it wasn't LGBTQ, but it definitely had that feel to it. And there are things. I mean, I think the other school, now that I'm thinking of it, is Callanan, and we reached out to Principal Ryan Sharp because a parent told us they have trans posters and big flags, and we didn't get a return on comment at all. So I mean, it's happening. It absolutely is happening in schools, and in fact, I've got text messages from teachers inside the district that say, and I know this is all anecdotal evidence. I've got a lot of anecdotal evidence. But what I've done is tried to present some of that on some of my social media channels, and every bit of it, Justin, has been confirmed by other people. So one of these things is, in 2020, Des Moines Public School teachers were told to be not just advocates for their kids, but to be activists for their kids.
Wait, the educators were?
Educators
by who?
were told. I don't know who ran those meetings, but
okay.
I've been told
that these were official meetings.
I've been told they happened in multiple schools in our district. Again, anecdotal evidence.
And we've reached out to so many people at this point, and for obvious reasons, no one wants to talk about any of this. And so it's been hard getting to the root of this.
Let's touch on this for a second.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've heard over and over from teachers also is, I cannot share my opinions. I'm so fearful of retribution.
Wow.
I'm so fearful of, I'm so invested in my IPERs. I cannot speak up. I can't share my opinions because I'll be blackballed. There is a serious fear of retribution. Justin, I've had friends and relatives reach out to me and say, dude, stop sharing your opinions. You don't know what's coming for you. I don't like bullies. And so I'm like, well, heck, bring it on. If that's what this is going to turn to, then I'm really interested in what that means. I mean, if they're going to do something to hurt my kid, then then it's going to be really ugly.
Now you're saying that who are these people trying to put pressure on you?
I don't know.
You don't know.
I don't know.
Your friends are saying, I'm hearing millings about DMPS and you should stop?
I've had friends call me and say, I've received phone calls asking you to stop.
From who you assume or administration or board?
Somebody that's involved, somebody that knows DMPS inside and out. I've had, my dad has asked me, hey, please, my dad was in politics for a long time. He said, hey, you're going up against a big machine here. There is a fear of retribution that the district really, that's one of the things they've got to address. They have a work environment right now where they have employees that are afraid to share opinions. And when you've told people inside of your district, you need to be activists for your kids. When you've got LGBTQ flags flying inside of schools, you're going to silence half of your population. Now, you know as well as I do that public educators are not 50-50 conservative liberal. But the conservative teachers that are in these buildings are genuinely biting their tongue and waiting their time out because of their IPERS, their great benefits package that they have, and afraid to speak up and say, I don't like the direction this is going. And that's been happening for, in my mind, probably close to 2 decades. And that's what's led us to where we are right now,
And so what are some other examples? Okay. Because the ideology thing is definitely concerning to conservatives.
Yes.
Right? And so maybe if you're on the left side of the spectrum, you see no problem with this and you're like, hey, this is what we should be teaching. Conservatives don't share that view. And of course, conservatives, people on the left, some people call them liberals. There are all sorts of terms. Like both parties should be listened to. Both parties should be represented in the public school systems. But are there other things? You mentioned this has been a pattern for decades. What are the other things that are concerning you that say, hey, these leaders need to be finally held responsible?
Well, and it's such a weird thing, Justin, because it's not the same leaders. It's not the exact same school board. It's not the same superintendents. I hope that I've heard some wonderful things about Matt Smith, the new superintendent you had on your show. I've heard some wonderful things about him. People inside the district were rooting that he would be the guy that would be given this full-time position. So I'm hesitant to I don't want to throw this big blanket on. And I do that a lot. I'm really good at throwing sand in people's face. I've heard that from people before.
The first step is acknowledging there's a problem.
Yeah, and sometimes I'm the problem. And so I've tried to come up with more solutions than just problems. The one that did it for me was COVID. The way that the kids were handled during COVID, the way, again, I keep saying they played politics with the kids. That's the best example of it, where the governor and the superintendent at that time butted heads.
Well, not just butted heads, but the superintendent, Tom Ahart, at the time, who I also knew because of the family members that work for DMPS and I had a good relationship with, but he defied directly his boss, the governor, and the State Department of Education.
And these things came home to roost because of that. They kicked out the student resource officers. The Des Moines Police Department used to have an active role inside of Des Moines Public Schools. And they are gone. And now
are they back now, or are they still gone?
No. In most schools, they're gone.
They're still gone?
They're still gone.
I thought they were bringing them back.
And Justin, the way that I understand that from my connections with the Des Moines Police Department is it would be very hard for them now to allocate those resources back to the Des Moines Public Schools. So there have been several things like that. I think that we can get into the mismanagement of some of the properties, which is a core issue here with the bond referendum. They're asking for $265 million. They already have a $660 million budget. They will tell you in these bond referendum informational meetings the enrollment is dropping, but they have an overcrowding issue and they need to close 5 buildings. Same exact face that I make.
Okay.
And I've even raised my hand and say this is a dichotomy that doesn't make sense. Your enrollment is dropping, you are overcrowded, and so the solution is to close buildings and to move students around the metro. And that we are already in that process of moving kids quite a ways from their home to get them to school in some cases. So you're going to exacerbate that problem. This is one that I don't know the right solution for, Justin, because it seems like everybody is set on this idea that at least 5 of these buildings must be shuttered. They must be closed. Now you ask, what's going to happen with those buildings? Because, again, as a realtor, there's value there in that real estate. There's value in that land. There's value in those buildings. What's the plan with those buildings? You don't get answers to that. Because I look at the Franklin Middle School and say, well, wait, this is one that you guys gave up on. That's still a serviceable building, that the right people came in, and there's an influx of money there that it is an important part of how they're able to have a STEM program inside of those old buildings, right? They've got cash to do it. That's something that the district is asking for. So I do understand that there's a need. We haven't had a bond referendum since 1989 here in Des Moines. That's about 20 years overdue.
You did mention there's a 1 cent sales tax.
There is,
and I actually forgot about that.
That is supposed to be, and again, man, school funding is intentionally complicated. But what's that old adage, Justin? If you can't explain it, you don't understand it.
And this is one of the challenges, is that even on this show, as we try to get answers, I find myself more confused. And I'm not saying there's anything nefarious. I'm not saying that. I'm trying to be as fair as possible, but it's becoming difficult to be fair when I can't get answers about anything.
Amen. I completely agree with you. And I think that that's a continuing problem. Again, talking about that attitude within the district, trying to find answers to some of these questions is really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And when the people that are supposed to know say to you things like, it's just really complicated, what I hear is, I don't understand it either. And so I just need you to accept that it's really complicated and that the only answer to this thing is more money. And I just don't believe that.
So it's kind of like we need to know where the money's actually going. We need to see a clear path on what this is actually doing. Otherwise, I'm not voting.
And Justin, I went to the bond referendum information meeting and I took extensive notes, and a lot of what they want to do wouldn't cost money. A lot of what they lay out there's some things like, we've learned that kids learn better if the desks aren't in rows.
Oh, so move the desks. Sure.
There's this wonderful...
The changes make sense in some ways, except for the construction stuff, which seems confusing. The changes make sense, but where you're struggling to, because you have way more experience at this than probably most people in the city, but where you're struggling to connect dots is, where's the money going? I understand the changes, like they want to do CTE, career and technical education in signature schools. Yeah. Great.
Yes.
More trade education. Great. Where's all that money going to go, though? How is that going to pay for that? That's what you're struggling to connect the dots.
I really am. And there's a lot of questions about the money. Again, I'm interested in what Rob Sand is able to come out with the audit. Hopefully that provides a few answers for us. I don't think it's going to provide all the answers. I don't think that at the end of this audit, we're going to be able to go, oh, there's your $265 million that you needed. I don't think that you're going to be able to cut administrators to get to $265 million. I'm not silly like that. But I do think we've got an insanely bloated administrative structure. When you see the flow chart for administrators in DMPS, that at one point in time, just a few years ago, few of them were even working inside of schools. Almost all of them were making six-figure salaries. The school district is failing. 12 of the bottom 35 schools that are considered underperforming in the state of Iowa, a third of the underperforming schools are right here in DMPS.
Right. It's true.
You have a 72% graduation rate. And again, anecdotal evidence, I've got dozens of teachers who have reached out to me and said, these grades are faked. We're forcing kids through the system that should not be forced through to prop up a 72% graduation rate. You hear stories about parents who do get their kids out of school, take them to some other resource, and that resource instantly says, your kid is behind. Your kid's reading at a grade level that's several grades behind where you think they are supposed to be.
I want to talk about grades being faked.
Yes.
Because I've heard this from educators as well in the district, that it's almost a look the other way and pass them through kind of scenario. Can you walk people through how that works?
Boy, Justin, again, the anecdotal stories that I've heard will make your toes curl. And I'm not kidding you. I wish I were joking that literally stories of teachers failing a kid that hadn't turned in assignments, that wasn't showing up for class, and the principal and another administrator walking into their room and saying, hey, we got to talk to you about Justin Brady. We really need Justin to pass. And the teacher trying to the teacher who's been there for 200 days with the kid, or however many days the kid missed, now has to try to justify why they gave the grade that they gave to administrators who weren't there every day, who don't know the lack of respect or lack of work that this kid has put in, especially compared to their peers. So, and Ian Roberts, this is one of the things that had followed him. Baltimore has come out and said, listen, we were faking grades.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. So,
goodness.
And my gut tells me we're still scratching the surface on some of this Ian Roberts stuff. My gut tells me that there were other things happening within the district, and not just my gut. I've had people tell me there were other things happening within the district that's still going to take time to come out, and it's going to take a lot of time to try to fix. And I just think that over and over, that word accountability keeps coming up to me, that the answer to this bond referendum is no until they can get their house in order. And there's a lot of things that I feel like their house is out of order right now.
Yeah, and I want to get back to the principal thing.
Okay.
You mentioned principals or admin and six figures. We did look into this, and I think Roosevelt is one of the examples. There are others. Some buildings have 3 to 4, I could be wrong on this, maybe up to 5 principals per building. And principal salary schedule is in the 6 figures. I do believe it can be just under in some cases, but with the benefits, it's over 6. What?
I didn't even know this.
Yeah,
there are multiple principals inside of a building?
Correct. Yeah, this is what we've researched, is that some, they call them associate principals. There's one principal and then up to 3 or 4 associate principals. And so I believe this is what you're referring to when you talk about administrative bloat.
Yes,
now,
exactly.
There's a debate to be had, like, why do we need the associate principals? That's certainly a debate worth having.
And people inside the buildings will tell you, Justin, that those jobs are, I would even say, these are very difficult jobs.
Oh, no kidding.
Being a teacher, it takes a very specific skill set. And to be a teacher in a district where you've got kids showing up hungry, or you've got kids showing up from single-parent family homes, or you've got kids showing up who just had to get themselves up and ready to go in the morning, that complicates that job greatly. And I appreciate that. One of the things that I would like to fight for is empowering the teachers again, giving the teachers back the power that they need to control their own classrooms.
Right.
We have these things in Des Moines, and this is a nationwide deal, so this is not specific to Des Moines. But do you know what a room clear is, Justin?
Yes.
This is when one student is disruptive. In a class of 30 kids, one student gets really disruptive. And I went to East High School. I went to Amos Hyatt. I saw this. You get girls that are pregnant in middle school, and man, their world explodes on them, and they're going to react. They can react poorly. You get kids that come from one of those situations we're talking about. You get 5 kids in a room that came from that situation that morning. Bad things can happen. Disruptive behaviors can happen, and they will happen.
The darkness, some of these, to be clear, the darkness some of these students are struggling with at home,
very difficult,
is beyond your wildest imaginations. For those listening. And so,
but in those situations that a kid is disruptive, the teacher in Des Moines Public Schools is told to clear the room of all the behaving kids. The idea is protect, again, there's a noble idea behind it, which is we have to protect those 29 kids that aren't acting this way.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But then what happens is that one student is allowed to destroy the classroom. In some cases, like the stories you hear are just insane of what's allowed to happen. And then these students are sometimes not even held. There's no accountability even for that student because, again, they understand the kid's coming from a bad situation. They understand that some of this is not that kid's fault, which is all true. There has to be accountability for that behavior. And when you start to remove that accountability, the other kids see it. That hurts everything. It becomes an instant trickle-down effect that happens there. And these are just some of the things. I mean, again, I didn't come with notes for you here, man. These are things off the top of my head that I'm hearing. I've expressed these on social media, and I've had multiple people tell me this is exactly what's happening.
As you keep talking about this on your show, and we'll definitely plug that and get a link in the show notes, The Rush. It's you and Travis.
Yep, The Rush with Travis.
You guys used to have a show on WHO Radio. Of course, now you have this show.
Yep.
And is this something, as you talk about it more and more and more, parents and teachers are feeling more emboldened to reach out to you? Is this where most of the feedback's coming from?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, and so I do agree. You don't want to exactly go up against your employer. You don't want to lose your retirement. You don't want to be pink slipped. So this is a real fear.
Don't want to be moved within their own building to undesirable jobs,
sure.
which is something that I've heard has happened. People will speak up and share their opinions, which disagrees with the directives coming from above. And then the next thing they know, they're moved from their classroom that they've been in for a decade or more to a different location or a different grade or a different spot within the building. That is, in that person's mind, a demotion. It's a deliberate move as punishment for them speaking up. Whether those things are true or not, that's the feeling that people have. And it's not one or two. There are several people within the district that feel like I have to keep my mouth shut or they come after me. And you're right, Justin. There is a thing of when you have an employer, you've got to do what your employer asks you to do.
Absolutely right.
And they're the boss for a reason. When that directive goes against your faith, when that directive goes against your better judgment, that's when we have good teachers leaving the district. We've had great principals that have bailed from this district for these exact reasons. Again, my time with East High School and being a part of the East High Golf Classic, that's an amazing fundraiser that has raised over $1 million that has directly helped the students at East High School. It's an awesome program. I was the financial chair of that charity for a while, so I would go and sit with the principal and literally cut checks out of our bank account to help out students. It was a principal several years ago, not the current principal at East High School. It was a principal several years ago who pointed out to me the administrative bloat, who had been brought in specifically for their talents to raise up an underperforming school. They were brought into East High from another state to do exactly that job, and months into it, looked around and said, I can't do it.
Interesting.
I can't, and I can't do it because every time I go and say, hey, here's what we need to do to improve this, the district tells me we don't do things that way. So even when they've had the right people in place, they've gone out of their way to make these great hires and bring people in with a specialized skill set, something is in the way. So there's a hurdle or a roadblock that's in the way of that person completing that job. And those are the things that have to be removed. And again, administrative bloat to me is a big part of that. You've got to empower these principals. You've got to empower these teachers to do the things that they know how to do.
And just to be clear, we have reached out to Des Moines Public Schools. Obviously, Matt Smith was on the show a few weeks ago. We have heard from Jackie Norris. So far, she has decided not to come on the show. We're still working on her. Hopefully, we have a dialogue. Hopefully, she comes in here eventually. And anybody else from DMPS administration that wants to come and bring clarity, this show, we're obsessed with getting it right and checking our bias at the door. And so I'm trying to get as many perspectives as we can to get to the truth on this stuff. So if anything's not quite right or you want to bring clarity, of course, anyone from Des Moines Public Schools is welcome to come on the show and bring clarity. We would love that. Ross Peterson, host of The Rush. How do people find your show and, of course, subscribe to it?
The Rush with Travis and Ross. You can find it on all the major podcast platforms. We do a live radio show every morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. That's available on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, and you can find it on our website. We have apps available. If you have an Android, there's an actual Rush with Travis and Ross app. There's several different ways for you to be able to consume our show. We are live and interactive. We have a 515 phone number that people call into. So we take phone calls with it. Now, our show is a sports adjacent show. We for about 15 years did a sports show on KXNO. And then did our Hawkeye post-game show on WHO.
Sound off, right?
So now we do all that. Now we call it the Black and Gold Rush, and we do that. We do that right after the Hawkeye games, and it's a live call-in show, and we get about 30 phone calls every Saturday talking about the Hawkeyes.
It's incredible.
And talking to Des Moines people every day. The phone line is open for anybody to call in. There's an AI bot that answers the phones for us and screens those calls.
Wow.
So you just call in and say, I'm Bill and I want to talk about Des Moines Public Schools, and you'll be on the air with us, and I can share some of my thoughts and opinions. When I've shared my thoughts, Justin, on why I'm voting no on November 4th, I've had a lot of people that have assumed that I am either A, ignorant about the issues here, and I'm not, B, that I, for some reason, am anti-public school, which I'm not.
You have a kid in public schools right now.
I have a son that's a sophomore in DMPS. He's thriving. He's got a great friend group. I think he still has a path these last couple of years that makes sense. He's a student at Central Campus, so he does the marine biology program there. He's got some amazing opportunities coming up with that. He's on fire for education right now, which is great. Again, I'm a realtor here in Des Moines. I need home values to maintain. I need this district to be a more attractive school district. I just don't believe that funneling more money to this group right now is the right answer. There has to be more accountability for how we got to where we are. They have, in these conversations that I've had, Justin, and I explained to people, my son's a sophomore. My daughter will never be in DMPS. I've had nobody ask me why.
Really?
Nobody.
Huh.
So I've even tried to raise my hand and ask questions. I tell people that. I leave it alone. And then when they talk about their enrollments dropping, I've asked, why is enrollment dropping? And the response I've got is bad press.
Real bad press.
Bad press.
Really?
They think that parents are leaving the district because of bad press.
Bad press. That's silly.
Especially when you are in the district already.
Yeah.
You might not come to a district because of bad press. Bad press might keep you away from migrating towards something.
I mean, the Ian Roberts thing is probably going to have an impact, but before that, I wouldn't have said bad press was an issue, but maybe I'm wrong.
Bad press is not, no parent, and again, at the charter school, I've even tried to go out of my way to talk to as many parents as I can who's had students in DMPS last year say, why are you here now? And it is almost universally bullying or politics.
Really?
So it's either the teachers have lost control. The teachers aren't allowed to control the classroom anymore. The baddest apples rule the roost.
Yeah, and I will say, knowing a lot of the administration or knowing a lot of teachers aren't the problem.
No.
The teachers are being, kind of like you said, hamstrung, or like their hands have been tied for actually doing their jobs and actually doing the things they want to do. Very hard job, even harder when your hands are being tied. And I don't, like you said, I don't know who these mysterious hand tires are, and I would love to talk to DMPS. Ross Peterson, host of The Rush, thank you for coming back on the show.
Thank you. Sorry, I feel like I just ranted on you for a half hour, but thank you so much for letting me come in and do this, Justin. I love what you're doing. I would reiterate what you said. Listening to your show, you do a very good job of handling things in the middle lane. You never let your biases show. You always let people answer questions. You ask all the right questions. I think you're doing a great job. Keep it up.
I appreciate that. It means a lot coming from you. All right. Thanks for coming on.
You bet, man.
Hey everyone, Justin here. Death is not the easiest topic to discuss. It's a hard one. It's pretty heavy. But I want you to think about this. What were to happen if you died right now? You died on the job. A lot of you listen while you're working, while you're commuting, while you're working, while you're driving for your job. What would happen right now if you died? Or if you got severely injured on the job? What would you do? What would your family do? If you don't have an answer, that's a problem, because you're leaving them to pick up the pieces. I had Nate Bolton in here. He's an Iowa workers' rights attorney to talk about this very topic. Like, what do you actually do? How should you prepare in advance? He spent 20 minutes with me just giving you resources to tell you what to do, what to plan for, how to act, who to call. And so his number one chunk of advice is just have a plan ahead of time. Deal with the reality. It'll probably never happen, but just have a plan. The whole show's free. It doesn't cost you anything. iowapodcast.com/Nate. iowapodcast.com/Nate. Listen to that interview. It's so much good information. And to my fellow Iowans, Iowa expats, and Iowans at heart, thanks for listening and subscribing to the Iowa Podcast.